Watchers in the Fourth Dimension.
Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge-Stewart.
Well, who are you? Black Guardian orders you to destroy him now.
This friend of yours, is it by any chance the Doctor?
Hello and welcome to Watchers in the Fourth Dimension. I'm Anthony.
I'm Diana.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Riley, and you will find me the most accommodating of partners.
This episode, we encounter a group of people who were screwed over through their interactions with the Time Lords. Are you really surprised by that? While the Black Guardian returns to finally seek his revenge on the Doctor, we're talking about Mawdryn Undead. But before we get into that, Julie's going to take a look at the mail. Over to you, Julie.
Thanks, Anthony. I'm actually going to take some time to look at one or two general feedbacks, and then we'll move on. So first we have Nick Rutherford, who just says, "May I suggest The Beast in the Cellar, starring Beryl Reid, if you do your Halloween special this year?"
Okay.
Riley, just think about it.
I will.
And then the other one is from Adam Stockton. He says, "Brilliant companion pod piece to Classic Who. You need to start putting out weekly episodes. I've been catching up from the first Doctor since last April. I finally caught up with you guys, and I don't know if I can watch episodes in front of you. It just seems odd. Please release more than once every 2 weeks."
I know I replied on social media to that one, but for anyone who hasn't seen that, the reason that we're at 2 weeks is our editing process is quite significant. There's also a fair amount of pre-work and research that goes into each episode, particularly for the behind-the-scenes piece. And we only have so many hours in the day. All four of us have day jobs. All four of us have other commitments. And we just don't have the time to quite go weekly. You will get bonus episodes to fill the gaps occasionally, which we do when we have time. But much as I would love to go weekly and go faster, we just don't have the bandwidth to do it.
If you'd like us to go weekly, donate to our Patreon at...
If you can come up with our combined salaries, we will quit our day jobs and become full-time podcasters.
And if that were to happen, we could cover more pieces of information. It'd be great.
Yeah, think about it.
All right. Now that we're over the general feedback, I will continue on with Earthshock. Guys, there's a lot. I've already cut a lot. It's still going to be a lot. David Gorton says, "It's hard to believe now that back then the appearance of the Cybermen was an utter surprise, so kudos to J&T for turning down the Radio Times cover here. Then the surprise that happened 8 days later. Granted, Adric wasn't great, but that was still a shocker. Surprised that no one has mentioned the production team member with the clipboard who is clearly visible under one of the platforms in, I think, Part 3. Beryl Reid was an excellent actor, but seems miscast in this, which is a pity as the rest of the cast is solid. Whilst there are elements which I agree don't make sense, I still think this is an engaging and entertaining storyline, and I have accidentally cut off the ratings. So David Gorton, it's all my fault. We'll go check you on Facebook."
Wow, Julie. After all the shit you give people for not doing it.
I know, I'm so sorry.
Here you are, cutting them off.
I'm the absolute worst. I'm sorry.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't, people, with these ratings. Am I right?
All right. Dan Boris says, "I love this episode. It is one of the few episodes that I have distinct memories of watching for the first time back in the 80s. The cliffhanger at the end of episode 1 was a surprise for me, and Adric's death was very powerful and provided the other characters with a true moment of emotion. I liked Adric's line about not knowing if he was right. I think it said a lot about his character that even in the face of death, the curiosity to solve the problem was the most important thing. I give it 9.5 excellent stars out of 10.
Excellent.
Yeah, I can't do that. So thank you, Anthony. Kieran James Evans says, Earthshock. Well, it's a classic. I do like the music, of course. The Cyber March is a banger, but even some of the quieter pieces in the cave are great. I like the new cyber design, even if it does say 80s, particularly with the gun effect. Earthshock's flaws are, to me, its effect on fandom and the production team wanting to replicate it in the future to variable degrees of success, particularly the violence and gore, but that's a story for another time. It gets 9 logic puzzles of doom out of 10. P.S. Did anyone else notice the Cyberman ordered to search the interior of the TARDIS and whom we never saw again? Is he still wandering around to this day?
So I did actually see that myth debunked once, and that all the Cybermen were actually accounted for at the end. But I do love the idea that there's just a Cyberman deep in the bowels of the TARDIS, forever lost.
That's my headcanon. Adam Wright says, Earthshock shook. It ignited the fear of losing the companion. I agree that at this point, Davidson feels like the Doctor. The Watchers have already said how great the story is, and I agree. I prefer seeing Adric as a pupil of the Doctor. Had he kept that role, he would have been more interesting. The closing shot with Adric holding Varsh's belt while staring at his impending doom is memorable. 9 out of 10 random people let into the TARDIS. Keith Burton says, I know over the decades since Earthshock was broadcast, Matthew Waterhouse and Adric have become fair game. The rest of the regular cast have occasionally joined in the pile-on, and even Big Finish got in on the act. But at the time, the death of Adric was shocking and traumatic for a lot of fans. The audience of the show was in a large part comprised of serious-minded 12-year-old boys, like me, and Adric was often my identification figure. I was so shocked and upset I had to go to my bedroom and read some Adric stories in the 1982 Doctor Who Annual. This was literally the only book available at the time with Adric in it. He gives it 8 badges for mathematical excellence out of 10. Oh, I love it. Little love for Adric there. All right, guys. Stacey Kuster, this one's going to be a fun ride. The way I snorted when I read your episode title, I enjoyed this episode almost in spite of itself. I don't agree that it was a good episode for Adric. He goes out being his most annoying. It's the middle of a crisis that could kill them all and destroy the planet, but pay attention to me. Yuck. And his sacrifice totally doesn't matter. Stopping the freighter wasn't what needed to happen at that point. So he dies thinking he failed, and now I'll never know if I was right, Rhiney up to his death. How is that a good ending? It's dramatic, yes, but not good. She continues. The story does give more room for character moments, but the problem is it doesn't make me like any of them better, except maybe Tegan. I did enjoy her foray into soldiering. Also, mustachioed commanding officer, conference on Earth, where is Unit? I just want more Unit. I'm still not feeling Davidson as the Doctor. His big moment that you pointed out fell flat for me. He's always a little breathless and feels like he's trying so hard just to keep up. He never feels like he has any kind of handle on things and lacks any kind of gravitas at this point, so his moralizing speeches just aren't working for me. But I love the Cybermen in the story, and I didn't see them coming. I had no idea they were in this until the cliffhanger. It was a nice surprise, actually. So even though there were things that didn't really click for me, I still did like the story. 6.5 Cybermen, repped for freshness out of 10. I think that was the biggest differing opinion that we're going to see. Beardo Beatnik says, greetings, Watchers. I must thank you all for once again showing me a different perspective on a story that I hated but now see the light. Wow, he hated it, apparently. You have all given me a new headcanon for this episode. For now, I see Adric did not die in this episode, but was in fact rescued by the Master at the last possible second.
Yes.
And yet to this day lives uncomfortably trapped in the dark recesses of the Master's Kink Dungeon in the bowels of the Master's TARDIS as one of many trophies he keeps.
Oh.
Headcanon accepted.
I know Riley is way done with this. I'm sorry, Riley.
It's okay.
Riley does sound way done with this.
And we now know that the cyber leader is in fact an upgrade Bill S. Preston, Esquire. 8 out of 10. Excellence. Another excellence. Austin D. Patterson says, it was so interesting to listen to you guys review this season where half of you knew what happened in Earthshock and half didn't. Such different perspectives on the arc and the characters as we got closer and closer to Adric's death. Also, could definitely tell that there were some moments where Anthony and Dinah really wanted to say what they were thinking. And this time, I know for a fact that Austin did not give a rating. So I will call you out, Austin. Citrine Dragonfly says, I knew what would happen in Earthshock when I first saw it, since it was on DVD and I read the program guide as religiously as some read the Bible all through high school, but knowing the summary and seeing it unfold are such different things. I love David Banks' cyber leader so much. He should get a camp count point every time he's in a story. Also, maybe a new metric for running tally of excellent uses? Adric's death was handled very well, with a lot more care than I'd expected, and I did get misty-eyed over the credits. The story as a whole is wonderful. 8 out of 10 hubristic cyber leaders. And last but not least, Livesy Michael from Instagram. About the Cybermen breaking out of their silos, aren't they aware that they're worth more if they are still in the original packaging? I love that. I love this story because of the high stakes, and we suddenly get to see the main characters are vulnerable people and not just snark machines as they've been portrayed, especially Matthew Waterhouse and as Adric, who I actually think gives his best performance here. 9 missed bonuses out of 10. And that, my friends, is the mail.
Well, thank you, Julie. And as a reminder to our listeners, we really do love getting your feedback, thoughts, comments, and questions. And as you've just heard, we do try to read out as many as possible on the show, even if it's rather a lot. So please do get in touch. You can contact us through Facebook and Instagram at Watchers4D, or you can email us at watchers4d@gmail.com. And more recently, you can also join us on our Discord server. The link to that is in the blurb for this show. And finally, we would love it if you subscribe to the podcast if you're not doing so already, and if you dropped us a review or rating on your podcast platform of choice. Moving behind the scenes, and there is a lot of behind the scenes stuff here. The story of this serial really starts with when producer John Nathan Turner decided that he was going to kill Adric. In part, this was because he felt that Adric had not succeeded as a companion, and he blamed this on how some of his original ideas for the character had not been properly embraced. In particular, an untrustworthy streak which was intended to heighten the sense of danger and suspense in Doctor Who. Nathan Turner still believed that this was a direction worth exploring, albeit via a different character. And script editor Eric Saywood threw his support behind this idea as he was intrigued by the notion of an evil companion. In mid-May 1981, Nathan Turner issued a character outline for Turlough, a humanoid alien of mysterious origin. Turlough would be the focus of a trilogy of stories at the heart of Doctor Who's 20th season, continuing a pattern of short, linked arcs which the show had started to use over the previous 2 years. This time, the connective tissue would be provided by the machinations of the Black Guardian, a cosmic entity who had been introduced during the Key to Time storyline that ran through season 16, and Turlough would be revealed as an agent of the Black Guardian, secretly scheming to kill the Doctor. Nathan Turner envisioned this new trilogy as slowly peeling back the layers of Turlough's duplicity. In his introductory adventure, Turlough would arrange to have the Doctor save his life and thereby join the TARDIS crew. He would then covertly act against the Doctor in the trilogy's middle installment, and the final story would see the truth about Turlough exposed and the defeat of the Black Guardian, whereupon Turlough could either be retained as a companion or written out of the show if the character was not working well. It was decided that Turlough would be introduced in the 3rd serial of season 20. Originally, this was intended to be The Song of the Space Whale by Pat Mills and John Wagner, who wrote the regular comic strip for the Doctor Who weekly periodical. However, Wagner dropped out of the project in late 1981, and the relationship between Mills and Saywood very quickly became uneasy. By May 1982, it was clear that The Song of the Space Whale would not be ready to enter production at the end of August. At first, it was thought that Enlightenment, the story intended to conclude the trilogy, might be brought forward in the production order to take its place. However, Saywood had already been discussing ideas for Doctor Who with Peter Grimwade, who had written Season 19's Time Flight. Grimwade was interested in developing a Doctor Who version of The Tale of the Flying Dutchman, a mariner's legend with its origins in the 18th century about a ghost ship and the sailors aboard who were doomed to sail the seas forever. This influenced a narrative about a spaceship which travelled ceaselessly through the stars carrying a crew of immortals. Grimwade also wanted to write about a series of interrelated events taking place in the same location but in different periods, predating Stephen Moffat with the timey-wimey stuff by almost 25 years. His inclination was to separate these settings by several centuries, but he was encouraged to bring them closer together so that one character could be present in both time periods. Ian Levine, who was acting as the show's unofficial continuity advisor, suggested having one of the Doctor's former companions fulfill this function. Grimwade agreed and thought of science teacher Ian Chesterton, as played by William Russell. This in turn inspired the setting, an English boys' school which would allow Grimwade to draw upon his own unhappy experiences. The title became Mawdryn Undead, derived from the Welsh words mor, meaning dead, and din, meaning man, so we've got Dead Man Undead, effectively. Early in its development, it was thought that Mawdryn Undead might be broadcast towards the end of the season. When The Song of the Space Whale was dropped from the schedule, Grimwade was asked to hastily develop his scenario to replace it. Since it would now serve to introduce Turlough, rather than include him as an established character, Grimwade merged his role with that of one of the schoolboys. A storyline was commissioned at the end of May, and Enlightenment was restored to its original place in the production order, with Mawdryn Undead now positioned as the 3rd serial in both recording and broadcast schedules. By now, Grimwade and Saywood had settled on 1983 and 1977 as the serial's 2 time periods, with the latter offering Queen Elizabeth's Silver Jubilee as a backdrop for the story's events. Unfortunately, it was soon discovered that stage commitments would prevent William Russell from appearing in Mawdryn Undead. The production team then unsuccessfully approached Ian Marter about reprising his role as Harry Sullivan. I know Julie loves that idea.
No.
And finally, Nathan Turner turned to Nicholas Courtney, who of course had played Brigadier Lethbridge-Stewart on a recurring basis from 1968 to 1975. Courtney had attended Tom Baker's farewell party in early 1981 and at that time had indicated his willingness to return to the show. Courtney was available during the recording dates for the serial, and so he was contracted at the beginning of June 1982. Although it was not a natural fit for the character, Grimwade inserted the Brigadier into his narrative with the idea that he was now retired from UNIT and teaching mathematics. Levine pointed out that setting part of the story in 1977 would break with continuity of Lethbridge-Stewart's original serials, which had been intended to take place a few years ahead of their broadcast dates. As such, it would be inconsistent to depict the Brigadier as being retired in 1977, when stories such as Pyramids of Mars had indicated that he was still active with UNIT into the 1980s. Nathan Turner liked the connection with the Silver Jubilee, however, and so said, to hell with it. In the process, this gave rise to what is known in fandom as the UNIT dating controversy, which surprisingly has nothing to do with Joe Grant and Captain Yates. In writing the scripts for Mawdryn Undead, Grimwade wanted to suggest that part of the reason the Doctor accepted Turlough so readily was because he still mourned the loss of Adric. However, this motivation was eventually dropped. Grimwade also specified that a flashback sequence should be included in the episode 2 scene where the Doctor helped the Brigadier regain his memory. Similar moments had met with some acclaim in 2 recent serials he had directed, Season 18's Logopolis and Season 19's Earthshock. It also accorded with Nathan Turner's desire to appeal to the programme's fanbase. Assigned to direct Mawdryn Undead was Peter Moffat, whose most recent Doctor Who work had been on The Visitation 1 year earlier. Joining Moffat behind the scenes, we have production manager Anne Aronson, returning to the show for a second and final time. She had previously worked as a production assistant on Season 16's The Armageddon Factor, the last time we saw The Black Guardian. As designer, we have Stephen Scott, making his only contribution to the show, but he would go on to work on Hollywood movies such as Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Interview with the Vampire, and Hellboy, as well as 2 James Bonds. We have 2 co-costume designers, Amy Roberts, who makes her 6th and final contribution to the show. She most recently worked on Season 19's Time Flight, and Richard Croft, who makes the first of 6 contributions to the show. Outside of Doctor Who, he also worked on Blake 7, The Blackadder, Blackadder's Christmas Carol, and a bit of Fry and Laurie. And as composer, Paddy Kingsland returns for the 7th time, having most recently scored Season 19's The Visitation. Now, possibly the key casting decision for Mawdryn Undead was the role of Turlough. This proved to be an arduous process, and Nathan Turner eventually began to grow concerned that no suitable actor would be found. Finally, his partner, BBC production manager Gary Downey, recommended Mark Strickson, who had recently appeared in episodes of the medical drama Angels. Strickson auditioned for Turlough, and Nathan Turner found himself agreeing with his partner's suggestion. However, before he could offer Strickson a contract to play Turlough, JNT was informed that the production team of Angels was planning to add Strickson to their regular cast. Although the actor had not formally accepted this promotion, the Angels writers were already adjusting their scripts accordingly. This annoyed Mark Strickson, because he felt it was presumptuous, and so he decided to join Doctor Who instead. Wonderfully petty. In mid-June, he was contracted for 18 episodes, encompassing the remainder of Season 20. Although Nathan Turner's notes had described Turlough as being blonde like Strickson, concerns were now raised that he resembled Peter Davison too closely. As such, Nathan Turner suggested that Strickson should shave his head to play Turlough. The actor was open to this, but only if he was paid an extra fee to compensate for any resulting loss of work in the weeks after he left Doctor Who. Nathan Turner balked at this request, and makeup designer Sheila Wells instead found a way to efficiently dye Strickson's hair ginger. He was also given a shorter trim than Davison to further differentiate them, and it was Strickson's idea to dress Turlough in dark, somber clothes, which he felt would make an effective contrast with the Doctor, Nyssa, and Tegan. Now, production of the story was relatively hitch-free, and the final version was broadcast between February the 1st and the 9th, 1983. And with that, we are on to our short summary, which this episode is in the hands of Riley. Over to you, my friend.
The serial begins at a private school, which looks like it could have been in either 1983 or 1883, with some of the best music we have ever heard on Classic Who. There we meet a sniveling little shit named Turlough. Turlough gets offered by a man dressed like Cruella de Vil to be taken away from Earth if he promises to kill the Doctor, because obviously an English schoolboy would be the most suitable person for the job of killing the Doctor. What was Peter Grimwade thinking? Everyone knows that the only English schoolboy capable of killing the Doctor is Cyril from the Celestial Toymaker. Anyway, we find out that Cruella is actually the Black Guardian. So the Black Guardian's plan is for Turlough to lead the Doctor to a ship filled with scientists that look like bruised fruit who cannot die because they thought it would be smart to screw around with Time Lord technology. So how does this plan lead to the Doctor's demise, you ask? Well, by trying to guilt the Doctor into using all of his regeneration energy to kill the scientists who yearn for the sweet release of death. All the while, we have a story that is filled with characters entering transmats, entering the TARDIS, leaving transmats, entering a ship that looks like a department store, leaving the TARDIS, then going to the Brigadier's cottage, going up a hill, leaving the Brigadier's cottage, then going back down a hill, then hiding in secret areas of the department store ship. All the while, characters are asking where other characters are. Are they in the TARDIS? No, I think they're in the transmat. Where's the Brig? Where's the Doctor? Are Tegan and Nyssa with the Brig? Maybe they are with the Doctor. But is this the Doctor? And where is Turlough? Well, Turlough was wandering around having a dramatic breakdown talking to a plastic shot glass. Our story resolves by the 1977 Brig and the 1983 Brig meeting, and this luckily creates the energy needed to kill off the spaghetti-headed monsters. The Black Guardian disappears. The Doctor accepts Turlough into the TARDIS crew to the disapproval of Tegan and Nyssa, and each Brigadier gets safely brought back to his correct place and time. I guess the serial should have been called 2 Brigs, 1 Ship.
Oh, no! Wow. I mean, parts of that just definitely gave me a headache.
I want to say something before we even get started. And I don't like to start off this strong, but I'm going to start off this strong. Fuck Turlough.
No, I get you. I get you completely. The introduction, that opening scene with him, and he calls him Hippo, but his name is Ibbotson.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what would have been worse. What if we would have had Ibbotson as the person out of those two that was along for the journey in this serial instead of Turlough? I don't know if that would be better or worse.
This is an unfortunate story where there were parts that I really, really, really wanted to enjoy, but then either Turlough was on screen or the music was, what is happening? Because that music, oh my gosh. It sounded like it needed to be either in like a police procedural or in some other weird 80s something that's not Doctor Who.
So Lawrence Miles and Tapwood, it's been a while since I brought up my second reading, but they refer to it as the most irritating music ever used in the series. Not just incompetent, but inappropriate to every single scene.
Not wrong.
I agree. I don't think it is that harsh. I can remember some Dudders cats on synth keyboard in the middle of the night. But speaking of the music, it reminded me of what Julie likes to mention, which is how good music is often knowing when not to add music.
Yep.
They took so many swings in this. Every opportunity they did, and I'm pretty sure their batting average was under 300. Pretty sure. But I tell you, I did actually like one piece of music, and I think we'll get to that a little bit later.
Can you translate that baseball reference into a cricket reference for our UK listeners, please, Riley?
If I knew cricket, basically the person is successfully doing something with the bat every 1 out of 3 times. That's it, at best. Yeah.
Mm. So Turlough's the worst, and that's established in the first 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. When he bullies Ibbotson into stealing the car with him, crashes the car, this one-of-a-kind classic car that the Brigadier owns, and is zapped off to somewhere psychedelic?
Yeah.
All right. And he encounters his guardian, and to us, who watched season 16 not too long ago, it's pretty safe to assume this is the Black Guardian. But would the average viewer actually remember who the Black Guardian is after 4 years?
I don't think so.
No.
I do not think so.
I have a question about the little raven hat thing that he had.
The answer is why not, Julie? Why not?
Okay. I have lots of questions and none of them get answered. It's going to be fine.
Well, and that's the thing. This is the first part of a 3-part trilogy, so they might get answered.
Oh, okay.
I seem to recall when we eventually see the White Guardian again, he too has a bird on his head.
Love it.
Sure. Let's do it.
Why not?
As long as it's consistent.
Yeah.
Of course, his is a dove as opposed to a
Of
raven.
course. I would like to point out, since we only have him till halfway through part 1, Ibbotson was also particularly annoying, and I found it amazing. It wasn't just how whiny he delivered every single line, but I counted. He had 30 separate lines in the script. 13 times out of those 30, he either says or ends his sentence with, Turlough. Oh, God, shut up.
So you mentioned Cyril, and what's interesting is I think Ibbotson sounds a lot like Cyril from the Celestial Toymaker, and Cyril in
that
turn
whininess,
was based on Billy Bunter. So you're kind of seeing that Billy Bunter archetype with Ibbotson. I actually feel quite bad for Ibbotson.
Me too.
I actually went to a British public school, which to translate to American is private school, and I know the archetype. The poor kid who doesn't quite fit in, has no real friends, and so he sort of trauma bonds to a real shitheel of a kid who treats him like shit, but he's so insecure that he feels tied to this person because he's the only one that gives him the time of day. I knew people like that, and it breaks my heart to see it, because that's very real.
And I don't even have that kind of school background, but I happen to like the Brigadier generally, but when he turned and looked at him and said that he had a disgusting body.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
I was so offended.
That's out of character for the Brigadier.
I thought so too. And I will maybe blame that on his amnesia, but considering that this student is receiving this kind of language from his congenial teacher means that his school life is shit.
But also, the one thing that I do understand is I think it was saying just that you have a shit body. But after watching Ibbotson run, I did have some questions on his running technique. And I didn't necessarily disagree with maybe you should try running some more, because not to say that everyone has to be the best runner. That's not what I'm trying to say. But flailing arms and legs, it's a little much.
Hey. Running like Kermit the Frog is a legitimate running style. Friends established this.
Ibbotson reminds me of a quote from Community, which I will steal, which is, he looks like God spilled a person.
Oh.
Wow.
I think it's more of the direction wanted to make him so typecast and so stereotypical that they did it that way. And it's one of those where, yes, it is somewhat true to life, right? But it was, let's put all of the characteristics into one person so it's very obvious to the viewer that this is what the person is. Gets a little frustrating sometimes, in my opinion, because usually you don't see all of those characteristics all wrapped up in one.
This is all indicating to me that out of the two, they should have had Ibbotson join the story. And because we're talking about him more than we're talking about Turlough, we kind of know Turlough. We understand that type of character, and we are annoyed with that type of character. Ibbotson is also annoying, but he's a bit more interesting.
So I think just on Ibbotson and the reality of the British school system at this time, caning in British schools was not outlawed until 1986. So when the Brigadier says he wants the student responsible beaten within an inch of his life, that was perfectly permissible. Corporal punishment as a whole in private schools wasn't banned until 1998.
Wow.
And I remember I was in the junior school at the time, but we shared a campus with my school's senior school. I remember seeing kids doing physical detention after school where they literally had to run laps around the playing fields for an hour as punishment. By the time I was old enough for that to have been eligible, that had been made illegal. But this was the reality of the British school system. And a kid like Ibbotson, unfortunately, is not equipped to live in that system. It's fucking awful.
And this is why England is softer now.
It's also why they should have let him on the TARDIS, because honestly, he was having a worse time than Turlough was.
But he would have been really annoying.
Well, Turlough is too.
We didn't win either way.
Okay, we have to move past these two for now. How about Nissa's new outfit? So much better than last time.
Yes, Queen. I love
She's looking cute.
She's looking great.
And she felt cute too.
Nissa's now had 3 outfits in 3 stories, and Tegan is now 1 for 3.
Still stuck. Yeah, she's stuck.
An incredibly impractical outfit.
Yeah. I mean, all she needs to do is fall over in a muddy field and she's screwed.
Oh. And she's got to have another outfit somewhere because that thing is still clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'd have spaghetti on her lap at some point.
I think we had a Joe Grant costume that we were like, how is this still clean after she's like climbing through and
we
like
did.
The time monster, yeah.
Yeah. This is where we have the part where there is one piece of music that I thought was good. And that is while they're in the console room of the TARDIS and they see that ship that's about to hit them, that guitar sting, I don't know. I really enjoyed that. Maybe it's because it's heavy guitar with sci-fi and it's the 80s is making me think of David Lynch's Dune. I don't know, but I enjoyed it.
A little bit of Gene, a little bit of Flash Gordon.
Yeah, that too. Exactly.
It doesn't feel Doctor Who to me.
I can see that.
I know for a lot of this, I was wondering why the Brigadier shaved his mustache off and then came to the realization it's so that we could tell them apart.
Guys, I literally got a text from Julie 4 days ago that simply said, why is the moustache on?
Answers now.
I had lots of opinions and still have lots of opinions on a lot of this because throughout this whole thing, I'm just like, I should like this more. The Brig is here. The Brig is here. The Brig is here. But why is everything terrible? Tells you how I'm feeling about a lot of things. But there have been a lot of references to things, and we have yet another reference to the Mary Celeste.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do.
I loved it.
Everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Before we move off of the music and things that Julie didn't like, a perfect example of that was the rip-roaring, hilarious musical stings when Turlough's trying to throw the line.
Yes. I thought it was so good. I wrote that down in my notes too.
That was wonderful.
I really liked that.
We have a couple of things throughout this story I want to talk about. And the first one is just the repeated storyline of Turlough. Hey, a spaceship. I'm going to steal it. The Black Guardian. The hell you are. You're not doing that until you kill the Doctor. 30 seconds later, another spaceship. I'm going to steal it. Black Guardian shows up. No, you're not. Rinse, repeat. By like the 7th time it happens, Turlough, you know how this is going to go, buddy. Just give up.
Yeah.
They just wanted to see how many ways they could superimpose the Black Guardian onto something. That's all they wanted to do.
Let's talk about the ending to this, because did anyone else notice the first Doctor reference?
Oh, I did. That was awesome.
Oh, smashing him in the head with a rock?
Yeah.
Yep. William Hartnell would be proud.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my exact note was, hot damn, he's going to brain the Doctor.
Yeah.
Cliffhanger.
That's the t-shirt that I want, is just a picture of the first Doctor about to brain someone with a rock, and it's going to just say, First Doctor be First Doctor, and that's it. Underneath that.
All right, part 2.
Hey, we have this burnt person on the ground of the TARDIS in the console room, and all I could think was, since they were calling him the Doctor, was, oh no, someone overcooked the dish of the day.
My God.
Oh, dear. I did have an issue with that, because that burned corpse, even though it was horribly burned, looked nothing like Peter Davison.
Absolutely nothing.
Correct.
Okay, Nyssa and Tegan, or really Nyssa, because Tegan was skeptical from the get-go. Why did you think this was the Doctor?
Speaking of Tegan being skeptical, it seemed that throughout, Tegan was more skeptical than Nyssa, which seemed very flip-flopped from how they usually react to things.
Yeah.
And that was a bit surprising to me. So that first and foremost. 2, okay, so throughout this, Turlough is speaking in terms that no human should know or understand. No one, absolutely no one calls him out on it. The Doctor doesn't question it. Nothing is ever spoken about it whatsoever. So for the longest time, I thought this dude was just a regular student. And then, well, okay, he obviously isn't, but we have no idea any background, and no one is questioning how he knows how things work.
What's interesting, the Doctor does keep giving him side-eye. So the Doctor has picked up on it, but hasn't said anything yet.
Yeah, there's the moment where he's working with the transponder thingy that explodes at the beginning of episode 2. And Turlough is sciencing post-1983. And the Doctor kind of looks at him kind of funny. And I always thought that the Doctor's deciding to stay on the DL. And that's even why he takes Turlough on the ship at the end, is because he recognizes that there's some post-1983 shit happening and that he wants to know why. It just hasn't been brought up.
Yeah. That's 100% what's happening.
I don't think it was done super well in my opinion. I didn't see as many of the side eyes, apparently.
I agree with Julie on that one. I thought that was turning into a very large plot hole because I did not see the Doctor even just look at him weird or any of that side-eye stuff. Nothing.
Well, you two are allowed to be wrong.
Yes, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the montage that the Brig gets?
Yes.
It's really funny to me that in his montage of remembering from amnesia, he sees all those monsters, and that's understandable. He doesn't remember Liz or Joe or Sarah Jane, but he remembers Harry. He really is cursed.
And can I say, Harry's doing hush-hush work at Porton Down. Porton Down is the facility where the British government did work on chemical and biological weapons.
Oh my God.
So Harry's doing something really sketchy.
Can I be upset at the fact that he has Benton selling cars? Because, excuse me, no, absolutely not.
I bet Benton is a really good salesman.
Yeah, I think
He's
so too.
got the charisma.
Yeah.
But I believe that he would find something else to do with his life. I don't think he would stoop so low as to trick women into buying cars.
Oh my God.
Come on down to Baby Benton's.
Julie's just bitter because she literally bought 3 cars from this guy.
Also, we got to see clips of so many people, but we didn't get to see any clips of Benton. I'm very sad.
And honestly, too many clips.
Why the random Zygon?
Yeah, I understand that we want to get in all of the monsters the Brigadier's ever seen. We don't need the whole thing. I don't need close to a minute of montage when we've been using montages a lot recently.
But in short, Julie, why the random Zygon? Because that was the last story in which the Brig appeared.
Oh, yeah.
That is the last one. Okay.
After that, the Doctor suggests that the Brig needs some treatment, and he has a very visceral, violent reaction to that. This, if it was made today, would be a lot more of an exploration of PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like, that's what we're seeing here is PTSD. Whether it's explicit or not, it's coded around it. And the Brigadier even says he had a nervous breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
We do find out about what caused that, but that's what this is basically showing. Because the Brigadier went through all this traumatic shit.
And it's interesting how in this serial, we have, for the first time I feel like in a while, 2 scenes that are properly tense and dramatic. And we have that one, and then we, of course, have the one in part 3, where whether or not they decide, Tegan and Nyssa and the Brig, to let Mawdryn, who they don't know if that's actually the Doctor or not, out of the TARDIS. And just the conversation and their discussion there and the building tension and the pressure coming from Mawdryn to let him out, that was top-notch. I think that was really good, and so was the scene with Brig. I really appreciate that. I feel like it's been a long time since I saw something on the show where I was sitting back and like, damn, yeah, this is getting intense.
It's really sad that it's surrounded by the rest of this. Because...
What, spaghetti heads?
Because again, I don't disagree with you. There are parts here that are great. And again, a lot of the stuff with the Brigadier I thought was wonderful, and doing the timey-wimey of having the 2 breaks and everything. Great. Why did we have to then have a story with the Mawdryn? It felt like we put too many things, and then the Black Guardian on top of that. Do we really need 3 or 4 plot lines that don't actually fit together?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
I think all the parts could work as Doctor Who stories. I just don't know that I liked them all together in one story.
No big surprise here. I think we all can feel this way. I think if you remove the Turlough part, that element of the story, and the Black Guardian, and just leave it with Mawdryn and his folks trying to lure in the Doctor, guilt the trip the Doctor into giving up his regenerations and then having to like find a solution, that works on its own. It doesn't need a Black Guardian or Turlough.
Here's the thing. I think you could still have that element, but it just shouldn't be as prominent. We have this constant tug of Turlough's trying to steal a ship, but the Black Guardian reminds him, you got to kill the Doctor. It's so prominent. I think you can still introduce the Turlough character, make that storyline a little more subtle because you know you're going to do it over the next 2 stories as well, but keep it there. And I think it would have still worked. The fact that they just really slammed it in your face repeatedly, that's where it went wrong.
You know, Anthony, and the worst one of those, which I thought was also a plot hole, is when Turlough is speaking to what appears to be the headmaster of the school and saying all this shit that the headmaster would not understand. And yet Turlough's surprised, like, oh my goodness, it was actually the Black Guardian after all that was disguised as the headmaster. What? Do you think the headmaster would understand what the hell you were talking about?
And then you get the whole Turlough absorbing the Black Guardian's will, which implies possession or mind control or something. But then that's forgotten about.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm going to be a little controversial.
Oh, do it.
Surprise, surprise. Here comes Diana with her hot take.
Do it.
The whole time I watched this story, I was thinking to myself, there's no reason to like this. Everything is bad. Everything is bad. Turlough is the worst. Mm-hmm. Why do I love him?
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
wow.
no.
Awful, horrific human being, the worst. And the story was bad, and I enjoyed it. I loved him being so into his dream. You know, because we've all been there where you're dreaming so hard that the fact that your professor is floating in front of you doesn't even, that's normal. That's fine. I found this one oddly campy.
Oh, yeah.
And so I enjoyed that camp and that over delivery. The same idea. The Brigadier telling him he had a disgusting body. That's awful. It was so funny.
And honestly, on Turlough, and maybe Diana, your view of him is somewhat colored by the fact that you've seen all of this before. I do think he gets better.
I will throw out there that when I was watching this era of Doctor Who, I was deep in studying something at the same time. I have no cognitive memory of anything relating to the back half of 5.
Wow.
Turlough, I cannot tell you what happens to him.
Cool.
I will say, my opinion, once this Black Guardian arc is over, Turlough gets better.
To be fair, it would be hard to get worse.
Yeah, but they could just keep him as shit. But I think he gets better.
I have to also admit, Diana, there are a lot of problems with this serial. That is true. And I tore into it pretty well in my short summary. But of loving this one's wrong, I don't want to be right.
Yes. Your summary was so good because I was like, that's why it's so good. It's because it's just so bad.
I feel the same way.
I really enjoyed it. I'll get to my rating. We'll get to ratings later, but I'll just put my cards on the table there.
I've honestly not been able to like figure out how to say, like, I'm sorry, guys. I liked it.
I want to talk about Tegan and Nyssa ending up in 1977, where Tegan gets wolf whistled by students.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Brigadier gives her a glass of wine.
Mm-hmm.
Did anyone else notice that? When she is in his little cottage or whatever it is, at some point she's just there with a glass of wine. That's fucking iconic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the Brigadier offered me a glass of wine, I'd absolutely take it.
100%.
Like, there could be something in it, and I don't care because it's the Brigadier.
Which means there's nothing.
Exactly. He would never do that.
Yeah. All right. So at the end of this episode, after Tegan has figured out they're in the wrong time zone, when Nyssa goes back into the TARDIS, firstly, the burn victim. Did anyone else notice she put the fourth Doctor's season 18 coat over him?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And she goes in, she's confronted with this new figure that she thinks is the Doctor. We know he isn't. And he wants them to leave without Tegan.
I mean, he's done it before.
Good one.
Yeah, to be fair, though, he didn't realize. In this case, he's like, no, we're going.
No, for sure.
But as soon as Nyssa walks out, we get the Time Lords abandoned us. Perpetual torment and despair. The end will come soon. I, Mawdryn, shall be a Time Lord. Okay, you're a bit melodramatic, bro.
Also, that's not exactly what happens, really. But we'll get there.
Right?
What, the Time Lords abandoning them?
No, he doesn't really become a Time Lord.
Oh,
No,
right.
no.
So just throwing that out there. Weird turn of phrase.
Yeah. So we end the episode with the Brigadier, Nyssa, and Tegan re-entering the TARDIS, and they're confronted with Mawdryn with his spaghetti brain sticking out, and Nyssa and Tegan scream, and that's our cliffhanger.
And don't forget that spaghetti head's heaving up and down.
It sure is. I would scream too.
It's throbbing.
Olive Garden's never-ending possible right there.
All right, part 3.
Part 3. I love Mawdryn's costume. His whole crew's costume. It's so many purples and sashes and handkerchiefs. He looks like Steven Tyler from Aerosmith.
It's a bit jellyfish.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's also a bit like Padme's dress in episode 2.
Oh, yeah. I see that.
Yeah. I think it's at this point when I saw what was happening and how it was developing after, despite all the Turloughness of it all, this is where I really grasped on and said, I really like this premise. This feels like something the show hasn't done in a long time, truly playing with time. 77, 83. We have 2 Brigs, but we don't have them in the same place wandering around just yet. But I really do like that. I really did. And also going to that tent scene that we have that I referred to earlier, we're at that point now. One of the great things about it, in my opinion, was this is got to be the Tegan character looking absolutely the best showing for that character. It is a great use of that character having what we have already clearly been established, being very strong-headed, but using it in the right way and standing up and figuring out that there's something wrong and doing her damnedest to try to make sure that nothing goes wrong with it. I thought that was great.
Yep, I agree.
Tegan was wonderful in all of this. And I also love, even sometimes, I love you, Brigadier, but was he a little bit chauvinist? Maybe a little bit.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
It's just his nature, right?
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is, one, there's a sense of chivalry here, right? He's an old-fashioned gentleman. He's also got the military piece, hence the ordering.
Mm-hmm.
Would it rub up Nyssa and Tegan the wrong way? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if I was standing there, I'd be like, steady on, old chap, because that's the type of language he would understand. But good for Tegan for calling him out for it as well.
And again, it's one of those situations where there is the part of me that does appreciate that, because he is trying to protect them. That's ultimately what he's trying to do. And I don't hate him for it. And plus, he doesn't know how involved they really are with the doctor, right? It's like, oh, hey, we're his companions. And he's like, cool, I have no idea who you are. So I understand it.
That is not the worst authoritative man moment in this series.
No, it's not.
Right. Because that, as you just said, that is at least coming from a positive place of wanting to protect. But I almost lost my shit when the doctor tells Tegan, how could you be so stupid for bringing the brig with him? I was like, fucker, you did the exact same thing.
Right.
Shut the hell up.
And how was she meant to know that there was going to be another version?
I know. This is what I'm saying, man. My patience for the 5th Doctor is really running out. It's one thing for me to feel like, it's not really the Doctor me. But like, now we're going back to this again? This sharpness, this curtness, this rudeness? It's not deserved. And it just comes across as just, I'm not liking this character now.
This seems like an opportune moment to ask. So as of the end of this story, Riley, is he the Doctor yet?
Nope.
We're now about halfway through his tenure, and the answer's still no.
Roll the dice. Try again. See you next week.
I'm comfortable enough to acknowledge that I don't like this Doctor.
Yeah. As I said last episode, he is my least favorite so far.
I mean, and I might go to where you're feeling, Diana. Well, I can't deny it. He is the Doctor.
Because this is all he's ever done. Yeah.
But you're right. I don't have to like him.
Can we talk about how much of this episode is spent with Mawdryn crawling and writhing on the floor? It gets really tiresome. I'm like, oh, more of this? Okay. Set to some obnoxious music.
He's like a toddler having a tantrum rolling around on the floor, like, let me out.
I was really worried about his exposed spaghetti brain. What happens if dirt gets in?
All his buddies seem to have fishbowl helmets.
Yeah.
Except for Mawdryn.
What if he like bumped his little brain against the wall?
Yeah. Would have really hurt.
Leg kicks out.
So towards the end, we start getting more of the story. So Mawdryn's people tried to steal the regenerative ability of the Time Lords. All right, not the Time Lord's fault for a change. Instead, it mutated them and cursed them to perpetual degeneration and regeneration. And then Mawdryn says, the Time Lords could have fixed it, but they abandoned us. All I was thinking was, buddy, no, this is a perfect example of fuck around and find out. That's exactly what you did. And the Time Lord said, this is your own doing. You tried to steal our shit. We're not helping now that it's gone wrong for you. I actually don't blame the Time Lords for this at all.
Not this time. Surprisingly.
I agree.
No. Wow, I'm glad you all agreed.
Yeah, and I agreed with the Doctor not helping, too. He was like, no. They're in the find out phase. They got to sit in the find out phase.
And he wasn't a part of it. He wasn't the one persuading them to even attempt to do this. He was completely removed. So why are they picking on him to be the one to fix it?
Well, and as much as this Doctor's a little bit of a dick, the Doctor's meant to be empathetic. So it's preying on a weak link, effectively.
Well, and also remember, he's only a dick to his companions.
Yeah, that's true. We end the episode with finding out they need the energy of a Time Lord to die, but it would effectively end the Doctor's ability to regenerate. That's our cliffhanger. We're into part 4. And when we get the explanation, it's because there are 8 of these guys. And so it would take one of his regenerations to cure each of them and allow them to die. And he only has 8 regenerations left. So.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. It's also at this point where I said, I'm really not sure if I like or hate this story. So to be fair, guys, you all saying that you liked it, I'm not sure. I'm still not sure how I feel about this. And we'll see if this part 4 gets me over one side or the other.
So the Doctor says, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
And goes to leave. And as they're leaving, Nyssa and Tegan get sick and start decaying like Mawdryn's people.
It's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Did we ever get an adequate explanation as to how they were infected? Because this whole thing was meant to be...
Yes.
Okay, we did.
He said that in all their attempts to try to fix their mess up of not being able to die, that they must have screwed around in so many different directions that they would have made whatever it was viral. And he said that it was viral, and the reason why he and the Brig didn't get it is because they didn't actually handle the body of Mawdryn. It was actually Tissa and Negan that drug them all around. They had physical contact. That's why.
Did you just say Tissa and Negan, or did I imagine that?
I may have. I'm really tired.
Love it.
I do want to point out that is in a body horror kind of way, the rapid aging and decaying is really, truly terrifying. And it's especially more so when it's 2 characters that you really like. You know?
Yeah.
Though it was a bit more lighthearted when they became little girls. That was like, oh, that's sweet.
And I do want to say, I actually think the makeup they used for them decaying was pretty cool.
Yes, it
probably looked really good on a small screen.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it looked fine now.
On a large HD screen, you can see its makeup. But I imagine on a smaller screen, like you're watching a 15-inch CRT back in 1983, that must have looked actually quite realistic.
It was scary enough for me. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I usually don't judge special effects too harshly. I do sometimes on the podcast because that's our job. But I'll watch the birds and I'm not scared and I'm terrified of the birds. So, you know.
I think in this instance, I just want to call out how modern technology probably distorts how effective something would have been at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, this is a reference for Riley.
Uh-oh.
Riley, did you notice that one of Mawdryn's people looked a bit like Erling Haaland?
No, I didn't. I did not.
Okay, I was sitting there and I was like...
Oh, wait. No, I think I know who you're talking... I think I know which one you're talking about. Yeah,
Does that one play for Man City?
Oh, man. I know. Too many headers. That's why he's got this spaghetti brain thing going on.
Oh, my God.
Oh, God.
An actual real reference that we had in here was reverse the polarity, and I'm real mad that we never counted that. That should have been a metric.
Yeah.
Ian Levine strikes again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I could go back and count it through the various transcripts.
I'm sure someone else has already done so.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to bring up, and I am going to talk about Modern Who for a little bit. So if we have the timeless child thing, and the Doctor is this timeless being with infinite regenerations, doesn't that just render all of the drama of this story absolutely pointless? In which case, fuck you, Chibnall.
They didn't know at this time of the Doctor's...
I know they didn't. What I'm saying is it doesn't make sense because of stories like this.
That's going to be a really long year or less.
When we get to Chibnall.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get to that in like 7 years' time.
Watch me come in guns blazing, loving him. I haven't watched it all yet. I don't know.
You know, seriously, it'd be great if you did, because no one wants to hear all 4 people just tear it apart for 9 months.
Constantly shit on this, yeah. Should we wrap this up?
Yeah, let's do it.
So Doctor's ready to give up his regenerations. Second Brig walks in. Boom.
Zap.
There is something wonderfully comedic and awesome about the solution to everything was just a middle-aged man confusingly wandering in the middle of something. And it just caused...
Didn't they touch each other?
Yes, they did.
Like...
Steady on, Julie. This is a PG show.
I mean, you meet your younger self, and what are you going to do?
Tell the little shit to grow up is what I do to myself.
I loved it. I thought it was the epitome of everything I hate loved about this story.
It was great.
Makes zero to no sense, except that the idea of somebody that doesn't understand an LCD clock, he would not be able to set the VCR.
And how many times in the past has a story ended through the Brigadier just bumbling in? That's a rhetorical question, dear listener. You don't need to tell us.
Well, the funny thing about the end here is that, of course, I'm sure for all of us that didn't know about Turlough, when we see the doctor slap him on the back and say, join the team, I groaned audibly. And then I did appreciate Tegan and Nyssa giving each other that look of disapproval. But it was also another hilarious bit is that, okay, that's it, right? That's the end. Like, no, we have to end with the ship exploding. And that's it. Then cut to credits. That's hilarious. It's like, did they think that we needed to make sure for the audience to be aware that, like, don't worry about these Mawdryn folk. They're not coming back. I'm like, well, we already established that. They're all dead. That was the entire point. We don't have to show the ship blowing up. Anyway, I just thought it was a silly thing to tack on right at the end.
And that's the end of the story. So, with that, metrics. No quarries. This story had none. In fact, we don't get a single quarry this season. Spoiler. No jelly babies. Did anyone pick up on any I'll explain later?
I did.
Oh.
Yeah, we had one.
Nyssa says the doctor will explain later at the end of episode 4.
Love that. Camp count.
Oh, all of it. The music sting.
Oh, God.
Yes.
I would give the music 3 to 4 points all on its own.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
All right. Because I like to artificially inflate the camp count, we'll make that 4.
Just the moment of the brig touching with that dopey look on his face.
So that's what's up at 5.
I love that.
I want to give 1 to the Black Guardian's psychedelic background as well.
Or maybe his hat.
Or his hat.
Yeah.
And his little shawl. His costume in general.
Let's combine Black Guardian stuff into 1 point, so we're at 6. All right, well, let's go ahead and rate this. And Riley, you get to go first.
Great. Like I said before, I really liked this one. I can't remember the last two I liked as much as this one. That is honest truth. It is a good kind of weird. I enjoyed the tenseness of the PTSD scene with the brig. I particularly liked the scene where Tegan, Nyssa, and the brig were trying to determine whether Mawdryn was the doctor or not. That was a real highlight. I think this could have been trimmed down a bit. I made mention of this in my short summary. A lot of this is just traveling back and forth between locations and realizing, like, no, we have to backtrack and go back to where we were. Blah, 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 blah. Feels like it was done just for padding. That could have been tightened up. And, of course, we had the music, which the best thing I can say about it is it just kept on trying. It did. So Tegan and Nyssa were great, particularly Tegan. I was very happy to see that it was her character, not Janet Fielding, acting like the Mara to really expand. This is her doing Tegan and Tegan being given a chance really to shine. And of course, it was great to see the brig again. I went into it blind. I had no idea we would get the brig in this, so that was quite enjoyable, quite a treat. I think with a tighter script, and sorry to focus on this again, but a different doctor than the 5th, this serial could have really hit very high in my ratings, but it will still get a very respectable 8 whimpering boys out of 10.
Wow, Riley, that's your highest since Earthshock.
I'm telling you, it's been a while. I really enjoyed this one.
All right, Diana, what have you got?
I mean, yeah, I had a good time. I don't know what to tell you. Turlough is a little shit, and I'm going to be honest, I kind of loved his little diva attitude. Excuse my cursing, but he's a little cunt. I loved it. He's a terrible human, but I loved the drama that he brought to being a little lying twat. I really enjoyed the potential that it brings to relationships and all of that. So I'm low-key excited for Turlough, even though I know he's terrible. And the rest of the story was fun because I like the timey-wimey stuff. I like playing with timelines and having the Brigadier in those 2 eras, combining everything. I thought they did it pretty well for story purposes, even though it was a little forced at times. But that is also part of what I liked about this, was that it was just a little bit more fun without caring totally if it makes sense. And leaving that behind is sometimes makes for some pretty good TV. So if I wanted to focus on the real aspects of drama, it's awful and I would rate it very low, but I had a good time. And so I'm going to put it at 8 flying spaghetti monsters out of 10.
Damn. Well, Julie, do you want to go before I do?
I suppose if I have to. This is a frustrating one because there are elements that I love. And honestly, the Brig being there brings it up by like 2 points at least. I love seeing the Brigadier in most anything, although sad mustache. But I do not love Turlough. I, in fact, hate Turlough. And the fact that he's joining, it just puts a bad taste in my mouth. I am not very thrilled about this. I don't like that kind of drama because it's obnoxious. I also don't like the idea of someone in the TARDIS trying to kill the Doctor. That's not my idea of a good time. I find that frustrating. I know we haven't really done it too much, but I'm not for it. And the music was awful and everything. But I will admit that there are times when I was having a lot of fun. I do like Mawdryn. I just wish that all of this stuff wasn't combined all in one. So I'm going to give it 6.5. Why are the mustaches gone out of 10?
Well, that leaves it with me. And like Riley and Diana, I really enjoyed this. I think it was a lot of fun. Doesn't always make the most sense. The music was terrible. Truly abominable, actually. But it was fun. It was fun. For once, we have some Time Lord stuff where the Time Lords aren't being dicks. It's the other people who are being dicks.
Except for the Doctor.
Well, he's only a dick towards his own companions, as we discussed. It was great to see the Brig back, even if it should have been Ian. I think it's a crying shame that because William Russell wasn't available here, we don't get Ian back until 2022 with the power of the Doctor. Huge shame. And even then, it's only a cameo and he doesn't have a line, really. Yeah, this was great. That's about all I've got. So I'm going to give this 7.5 what the hell was Paddy Kingsland thinkings out of 10, which gives us a story average of 7.5.
Wow.
Which is our second highest of the Davison era so far.
Yeah,
I believe it.
that makes sense.
So hopefully we'll continue this upward trajectory with the next few stories, but we will see. We will see. But that brings us to the end of this episode. We will be back next time when we will be discussing Terminus. Yay, more Black Guardian. Yay, more Turlough. Lovely. But in the meantime, thank you everyone so very much for listening. And of course, until the next time, have a good one. You have been listening to Watchers in the Fourth Dimension with Diana Burney, Riley Schreck, Julie Philippak, and myself, Anthony Williams. This episode, 2 Brigs, 1 Ship, was recorded on Wednesday the 13th of August 2025. If this is your first time listening into the show, all of our previous episodes are available wherever you like to get your podcasts. You can interact with us on Facebook and Instagram at @Watchers4D, and you can also email us at watchers4d@gmail.com. If you're enjoying the show, please do subscribe and consider leaving us a review or rating on your favourite podcasting app. All of those things really do help the show. And always remember, if you're the producer of Doctor Who, you too can say, to hell with continuity, should you so desire.